chasing the star of the show, played by Harrison Ford.
The Fugitive, upon its debut, changed the entire scope of the industry and continued to break new ground. But guess what? There is more to all you might have seen. You were never told a handful of the several mind-blowing facts. Put on your seatbelt and let's take a ride as we uncover 20 weird facts about the movie that you probably didn't know existed. Number 1. A late recast was done for a particular role.
The cars that go with it are derailing about 150 yards down there.
No one can honestly tell what happens during a movie shoot. Most of the time, producers, directors, and cast members are met with surprises they didn't plan for. The Fugitive came with numerous surprises, but one of them was particularly emotional and devastating. During the rolling of sets, a particular role was recast because of an unforeseen circumstance that disrupted the scene. In the movie, Jerome Crabbe plays Dr. Charles Nichols, a pivotal role. However, he wasn't the one who was originally chosen by the director to handle that role. He never dreamed of getting a head start in the movie, but when the opportunity came, he grabbed it, making good use of every step. Richard Jordan was actually cast for that role, but pulled out at the last minute because of an ailment he was facing at the time. Initially, he thought he could handle it, but the doctor's advice said otherwise. He was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and within a few weeks, his condition worsened rapidly. Despite efforts to save him, his system failed multiple times, and he passed away 3 weeks later. It was one of the most difficult times in the movie. However, they managed to maneuver through it and kept rolling. Number 2. The director was an action guru.
Happens afterwards. And we had a great team of people working on it, from special effects coordinators.
Not many directors can take a script from its writing stage and turn it into a box office icon. But you know what? The director of the movie The Fugitive did it within a specified time, and everyone couldn't help but give him his flowers. The movie, directed by Andrew Davis, didn't become a hit by chance. It happened because he utilized his directing prowess to handle every scene in the project. This wasn't actually his first time carving something out of nothing. He was a regular director when it came to driving an action point in movies. Before directing The Fugitive, he was a notable figure in the industry with several movies to his name. Movies like Above the Law and Under Siege, 2 Steven Seagal action films, were a fraction of the many that bore his signature as a director. Even after establishing himself with The Fugitive, he kept his fire burning and went on to direct other movies that reached the pinnacle of the Hollywood industry. Chain Reaction, Collateral Damage, and, weirdly, Disney's Holes came on board, and he never disappointed. Andrew became one of the few directors who truly made it big but still chose to maintain a low profile. He should be given his flowers, though. Number 3. Someone else was considered for Dr. Richard Kimball.
For a young man. So they sent me home to think of a new name.
Casting actors and actresses during a movie shoot is typically one of the most challenging tasks during a movie's production, and it requires a lot of brainstorming on the part of the movie's producers. Did you know that Harrison Ford, who played the role of Dr. Richard Kimball in the movie, wasn't initially given a head start? The producers thought he was not up to standard for the role. In 1993, Ford was a huge star. However, the producers of The Fugitive didn't think he was qualified for the role because of his age. They thought he was too old, and that his delivery wouldn't be perfect as they envisioned, but contrary to their expectations, he turned out to be one of the best actors to grace the screen in The Fugitive. Before he was cast, several prominent names were considered for the role, but none ultimately secured it for various reasons. Stars like Alec Baldwin, Kevin Costner, Michael Douglas, and Nick Nolte were all considered before the baton fell on him. The producers were shocked to their core when Harrison Ford came onto the scene, but like they say, a good book is not known by its cover. He unleashed a talent that eventually landed him the role in the movie. It was also reported that the movie's producers were incredibly grateful for his impact, to the extent that they showered him with personal praise on various occasions. They have since learned not to judge an actor before trying them out. Number 4. 2 future stars had small, spectacular roles in the movie.
And I'll check the film on that kid.
No one can actually predict the future when it comes to what happens after a given season. However, most times the future just unravels things that most people involved wouldn't be less grateful for. Did you know that long before Julianne Moore and Jane Lynch became worldwide sensations, they appeared in the movie The Fugitive? It may not seem like much. Nevertheless, that little role made a difference in the movie. Julianne Moore played Dr. Anna Eastman, while Jane Lynch played Dr. Kathy Walland in the movie. And honestly, that little role of theirs caught the attention of many. How they were able to play the role of two doctors at the hospital, even without being doctors themselves, was something many viewers couldn't stop talking about, and if you look closer, they had the talent to get noticed. Even though they weren't very familiar at the time of filming, they went on to become notable names after that little role. The Fugitive gave them a platform to become who they had envisioned a long time ago, but that didn't happen without a little price. Fortunately, they paid it all without owing a dime. Julianne and Jane have since established themselves as Hollywood favorites, and this all began with The Fugitive. This movie became a legend for a reason, and no one can doubt it. Number 5. More than one location was used for the movie.
And shoved it into the bus and used our special effects to make it look.
It isn't unusual for movies to have several locations during a typical shoot before production starts rolling, and The Fugitive, without exaggeration, was one of them. Did you know that the scenes that appeared to be shot in Illinois in the movie were actually filmed in a different location? Dr. Kimball is a doctor in Chicago who spends most of his time running in rural Illinois during the movie, but contrary to what was purported, those scenes were shot in North Carolina. Moving to Illinois at the time was quite tasking, and not just that. They also couldn't find any area that resonated with what they wanted, so they came up with an improvisation, and fortunately, it fell in North Carolina. Most of the scenes that stand as favorites for many viewers were actually shot in North Carolina and not in Illinois, as purported. The scenes of the train crash and the dam in the movie were actually filmed in North Carolina. In fact, the dam in the movie was actually the Chiowa Dam in the Tar Heel State. These scenes, without mincing words, made the movie spectacular in every sense. Imagining The Fugitive without them would have been an utter disaster. Today, many celebrate the lasting impact made by the movie, but few know that the Tar Heel State played a significant role in these historical feats. Number 6. 2 movies were filmed at the same time.
Is probably the cleanest, most abundant form of energy we have available to us. And if we can figure...
Most movie directors, before embarking on any shoot, plan their day-to-day activities. The reason is that they truly don't want to have any shortcomings while filming any scenes. However, contrary to what they thought, nature had other plans for the producers of The Fugitive. Did you know that at one point during filming, the entire crew had to contend with challenging conditions? When they were filming at the St. Patrick's Day parade, the weather was extremely cold, with a temperature of -6 degrees. Not just that, they were brought to a halt when they came face to face with another movie doing its thing at the time. Michael Apted and his crew were shooting his movie Blink, and on 2 occasions, they accidentally bumped into each other. However, this didn't change anything, as they only exchanged pleasantries and continued with their filming without further distraction. The Fugitive became one of the most iconic movies in Hollywood history, with numerous epic happenings behind the scenes, and honestly, nature made it that way for a reason. Andrew and Michael actually began talking after this moment. However, this time it wasn't based on acquaintance, but rather based on an established relationship that had already begun before that time. Andrew and Michael are great directors in their own right, and nothing can ever take away that prowess from them. Number 7. An unexpected injury became part of the filming process.
They will shoot you on sight.
Shooting a typical movie comes with several unexpected events, and most of the time, these occurrences align with the script in various ways. Did you know that during the filming of The Fugitive, Harrison was hit with a tragedy that caught him off guard? He never thought this could alter his stance in filming. However, it turned out to create one of the best scenes in the movie. While filming Kimball's escape in the woods, Ford damaged the ligaments in his leg, which altered his step entirely. It was one of the trying times for him in the movie, but he managed to get through it, knowing that any further step could end his journey in The Fugitive, and to everyone's surprise, he continued without even thinking about the damage it may cause in the months to come. He was given the option for surgery, but most decisively, he rejected it. Harrison had to limp for the rest of his time in the movie, and to be honest, it brought another life to the film that was not scripted in the first place. Harrison's decision to continue filming despite his ordeal not only showcased his acting prowess but also demonstrated that he could go the extra mile for what he loved, regardless of the constraints. Not many actors can risk it all in moments as delicate as this. Harrison will always be a hero when talking about The Fugitive. Even though many only see the finished product of his sacrifice, no one knows the scars that brought him this far. Number 8. The movie broke box office records overseas. Not many movies that debuted in the Hollywood industry have done significantly well, even after several months. Most of them fell like a pack of cards, and the impact they had on the day of release died almost immediately. But guess what? The Fugitive came with a different aura altogether, and what many thought would die in an instant became one of the most talked about films overseas. 1 year after The Fugitive was released, precisely in 1994, the movie became a notable feat in China. It was released, and within a few months everyone couldn't get enough of the scenes that shocked audiences. This was not just a notable feat, it was significant considering the hindrances that plagued the Chinese movie community at the time. At the time, the Chinese government had imposed restrictions on the screenings of foreign films, but when The Fugitive came on board, it significantly changed the narrative. This was truly a notable feat in China because the last American movie that was released in its theaters was in 1985, and it was the phenomenal First Blood. The Fugitive will always remain a top-notch movie, not just in the hearts of viewers, but also among critics who never saw anything good in it at its debut. Number 9. The Oscars were its dwelling place.
Schindler's List. Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive. John Malkovich in The Line of Fire.
When The Fugitive first debuted, many thought it was going to flop like some of its contemporaries. But guess what? It shocked them to the core. When they least expected it, the movie's phenomenal breakthrough in the movie world exceeded their expectations, bringing every critic to a standstill. Did you know that in the history of movies, The Fugitive happens to be among the few films that made its mark at the Oscars? Aside from generating a significant number of sales worldwide and becoming one of the most beloved movies of all time, it received a whopping 7 Oscar nominations, a feat few movies have achieved. It broke the record by bagging these nominations, not in every category but mostly in technical categories at the time. It completely astonished its critics, giving them the middle finger through the extraordinary, mind-blowing feats it accomplished. The Hollywood community was more than surprised at some point, not because it had entirely doubted its capability, but because they had pegged it at a certain height. Additionally, The Fugitive was nominated for Best Picture, thanks to the director who brought his intelligence and technical expertise to achieve that mark. In the history of Hollywood, The Fugitive remains an icon that did wonders, more than many had envisioned. The entire crew made this happen. Their efforts couldn't have gone unnoticed. They made the movie what it is today. Number 10. Several editors had to work on it.
At the beginning of the film, when we hijack the plane and we first take control of the plane.
One of the key factors that makes a movie worthwhile is the picture quality. The reason is that viewers don't just focus on the thrilling aspects, but also on how well the pictures align with each scene. When The Fugitive was still in production, producers considered this and took several steps to be on the safe side at the end of filming. Not many viewers are aware that the movie was produced on a compressed timeline. They had only 10 weeks between the start of filming and the day it was released in theaters. This was actually a problem for the producers and directors, but to avoid missing the deadline, they devised a strategy that made it happen. Several editors were brought on board, working around the clock to meet their target. Did you know that despite the challenging obstacles they faced, they were able to pull through the strings that tested their prowess? It was one of the toughest times for the crew of The Fugitive, Nevertheless, they managed to make it through using various methods. Subsequently, 6 of the editors were nominated for the category of Best Editing at the Oscars, setting a new record that had not been seen in the Hollywood industry before. This was worthy of commendation, because it is rare to see multiple editors working on a movie, and even when they do, it will likely fall short of expectations. Number 11. The movie inspired many remakes. The Fugitive, to be honest, is one of the most inspirational movies, inspiring not only viewers, but also many other films that followed months after its debut. While many were celebrating its phenomenal impact at the box office, they were oblivious to the fact that it would inspire countless more films to come. Did you know that The Fugitive inspired a number of films, including one notable example in India? The storyline was similar to what was portrayed in The Fugitive, and to be honest, it made significant waves in Bollywood at the time. While many were still processing its effect in Bollywood, it further inspired a TV show again in 2000. The similarities were striking, as the TV show was built on the success of the 1993 movie as opposed to the 1963 TV show. No one ever thought it would become a trailblazer, but contrary to expectations, it blew the minds of everyone, including its critics. However, this version of The Fugitive didn't make an impact. It only lasted for one season, ending on a cliffhanger. The 1998 Leslie Nielsen movie, Wrongfully Accused, is largely a parody of The Fugitive, so it's safe to say that the 1963 The Fugitive was a predecessor and will also remain so. Number 12. Joe Pantoliano bargained for more time.
What the hell is that?
Somebody that makes more money than you.
Right. Convicted of first-degree murder and the killing of his wife. Pleaded innocent.
Did you know that Joe Pantoliano's bargain in the archives of The Fugitive happens to showcase one of the funniest moments in the movie, while simultaneously reminding us that the future can't be accurately predicted? From how the script was changed to how his hopes were brought to life, it truly shows that sometimes life brings major desires to many on a platter of gold. According to the script, Pantoliano's character was supposed to die, but along the line, it was changed to something better. The change in the script happened because Pantoliano was hoping for a sequel, so he lobbied to have his character Cosmo survive, which ultimately affected the script. In fact, at some point, he admitted that he made some gestures like groaning and moving his legs to aid his desires further comfortably. Fortunately for him, it worked. Joe Pantoliano should be given his flowers for his timely input in the movie, and not just for that, but also for his courage in pulling such a hit that gave him a head start. Joe's visibility didn't end with The Fugitive. He went on to make his mark in other films, repeatedly proving that he is called a genius for a reason. The producers of The Fugitive wouldn't dare forget his impact because he truly blew their minds in such a humble manner. Number 13. It gave a screenwriter his biggest hit. Every screenwriter yearns for greatness, and when it finally happens, they give their best to make it count. All they truly ask for is one opportunity to impress their audience, and when the screenwriter of The Fugitive got that platform, he made good use of it. Not many people are aware that the writer of The Fugitive, David Towie, had his breakthrough from the movie. Up until that moment, he had written several films, but none gave him the kind of worldwide exposure that he needed. Movies like Critters 2. The main course were among the films he had to his name, but when he wrote The Fugitive, it felt like he was on top of the world for the first time, which gave him a platform to write other scripts. He received sole story credit, and even though he was assisted by Jeb Stewart, who co-wrote Die Hard, he is worthy of all commendation. After gaining exposure from The Fugitive, David Towie's life never remained the same. He became a worldwide sensation and even partnered with Vin Diesel, writing and directing all 3 Riddick movies. Opportunity, they say, comes once, and in the case of Towie, he had no option but to make every minute count. The Fugitive remains a movie dear to the heart of Towie, and even in years to come, he won't stop singing its praises. Number 14. It is actually a product of a TV show.
Goss needed somebody with experience. I lied. That's all there is to it.
Did you know that the movie The Fugitive was actually based on a TV show? Surprise, I guess. In the 1960s, there was a show called The Fugitive that ran for 4 seasons and 120 episodes. Dr. Richard Kimball was in search of the one-armed man who killed his wife, a crime for which he was blamed. So when the need arose to incorporate some of this storyline into the current movie, they did it without hesitation. It worked perfectly, and not only that, it brought to life some characters that never existed in the first place. Even though the TV show wasn't entirely successful, it paved the way for the movie, and today the rest is history. That being said, the show won some outstanding awards, one notable being the Emmy for Outstanding Drama Series, and even its series finale was the highest-rated TV show of all time when it aired. This isn't the first time a show inspired a movie, but to be honest, the show deserves accolades because it made the movie what it is known as today. Without its timely input, it may have been difficult to achieve the kind of success that came its way at the box office and in the Hollywood industry. Number 15. Davis took a stroll into his past to cast Sam Gerard.
And for the movie, and so that's how I got involved.
Harrison Ford, I mean, certainly one of his appeals as an action star is
No one actually knows that the character Sam Gerard was a reflection of Davis's past. This isn't anyone's fault, as one needs to pay attention, otherwise one may remain oblivious to this fact. In the movie, Gerard is a vital character in The Fugitive as the U.S. Marshal trying to track Dr. Kimball down. However, before this construction took place, Davis was struggling to figure out how to achieve this character, to the extent that he didn't have a good night's rest trying to create something tangible. However, when the clue came, he took the first step immediately and never regretted doing so. Davis went back to his previous film, Under Siege, and achieved wonders that only he could accomplish. He actually considered Gene Hackman first, but for reasons beyond his control, he cast Tommy Lee Jones, a vital figure in the movie. Davis's way of doing things shows that no idea is actually a waste. If put together, it can achieve much more than is imagined. In the history of Hollywood, Davis remains a respected figure. This isn't some cliché. His years of expertise and intelligent display of creativity have consistently given him an edge over his peers and contemporaries. Good things never come easy, they say. Davis had actually paid the price and is now reaping the fruits of his labor. Number 16. The script was not given rapt attention. It isn't unusual to find movies whose scripts were not given the kind of attention needed, and The Fugitive is one of those films. Why this happens, no one knows, and to many's utter dismay, these movies never flopped in the market, nor did they become a shadow of their real selves. At one point, Davis had to provide a clue about what happens during the filming of The Fugitive, and he described it as more of a loose guideline than anything else. It was one of the weirdest expositions ever, and when he said it, he wasn't lying, even though many thought he was being mischievous. He also made a shocking revelation. While filming was ongoing, he had never met Tohei in person, but had a few conversations with Stewart while they rewrote the scenes as they went along. This must be the height of unprofessionalism, and knowing that flexibility, most times, is the key to something spectacular. He followed suit without any restraint. To further elaborate, he affirmed that while they were having a good time fixing 1 or 2 scenes, he and his actors did a little maneuvering and came up with some of the key plot points. It was quite unusual to hear. Nevertheless, it achieved the purpose for which it was done, and today, the rest is history. To emphasize this point, Lynch mentioned that she and Ford collaborated on new dialogue for their scene because Ford didn't like the version in the script. This would undoubtedly be one of the strangest ways to shoot a movie, yet it came out perfectly, even better than some of the films that have graced the Hollywood industry. Number 17. It was truly a huge project in the United States. Movies come and fade almost immediately in the Hollywood industry, but did you know that the movie The Fugitive made a significant impact in the United States? While others had given an unfair verdict concerning its popularity, it surpassed their expectations to become one of the biggest movies to have graced American soil. Are you aware that The Fugitive made an unbelievable $23,076,000 in its first weekend in the US, a record for an August opening? This is a remarkable statistic that any movie would be proud to achieve at the time. While so many people were expecting it to end its run there, it made another mind-blowing record at the box office. It proceeded to become a top movie for a whopping 6 weeks in a row. This was yet another feat that was scarcely seen at the time. Nevertheless, The Fugitive did wonders within a short period, leaving records that were both surprising and unbelievable. How it came to this point, no one can actually tell, but one thing cannot be taken away from it. Good movies truly speak for themselves. To cut a long story short, The Fugitive made a whopping sum of $183,088,000 in the United States. This wasn't just some small historical record, it became the third highest grossing movie of 1993. The producers and directors of The Fugitive should be given a Lifetime Achievement Award for creating an exceptional piece that has made a lasting impact. Number 18. A change of script made the work easier. Many times, movies that went viral and later became worldwide sensations often undergo a script change. This happens for several reasons, and while some changes have detracted from a movie, in the case of The Fugitive, it made it a notable feat in the presence of its peers and contemporaries. The first script of The Fugitive had a different storyline, but when it was time for camera rolling, it fell short of the directors' and producers' expectations. In the first script, Harrison Ford's character, Dr. Richard Kimball, had a romantic relationship with the doctor played by Julianne Moore. However, when it came to Ford's attention, he nixed that idea, citing the fact that it would be hard for audiences to get behind Kimball trying to find his wife's murderer if he was hooking up with another woman. The storyline in this script didn't actually portray what they wanted, and thanks to Harrison, who rejected the idea from the start, the current version of The Fugitive we saw came to be. These scenes were filmed, but after several scrutinies, they failed to make it to the final cut, which made the crucial difference. Number 19. Some of the scenes took a huge sum to shoot. During the production of The Fugitive, the directors and producers came to the resolution that if the movie was ever to make sense, some significant funds would have to be invested in it. And because they were eager to achieve their aim, they pulled all the strings and made it happen in a jiffy. Are you aware that the maze of tunnels leading to the dam was actually a fake, built in a Chicago warehouse? It was a truly accurate reflection of the producers' interest in making it as realistic as possible, to the extent that they incorporated it into the movie to achieve the desired effect. The part that overlooks the dam where Kimball and Gerard have their dramatic confrontation was actually transported from Chicago to the Cheoah Dam in North Carolina, where a subtle change was made to make it appear as if it belonged there. For the big jump, there were no stuntmen involved. Ford himself did what only he could do best. He filmed the shot where Kimball looks over the edge and considers jumping, and dummies were used for the plunge itself. However, in all of these shots, the shocking aspect is that a substantial amount of money was spent to make it happen. It was reported that 6 Harrison Ford look-alike dummies were commissioned, each costing somewhere between $7,000 and $12,000. This was a significant expense, but then again, nothing good comes easy. They ultimately did not survive the impact, and the hopes of the manufacturers renting them out were dashed to pieces. Number 20. Harrison didn't fake his befuddlement in the interrogation scene.
Biggs, do a look and see down there and take movement.
Right. You want to know it's time to go to work.
The bus rolls over several times before it settles flat.
We often see actors faking emotions that they don't actually feel to prove a point while performing what they know how to do best on set. Sometimes it gets so bad that the delivery becomes so poor that you can read between the lines and tell it isn't authentic. However, in the movie The Fugitive, most of the scenes featuring Harrison Ford were born out of genuine emotion, not pretense. To lend more realism to the scene where Dr. Kimball is first questioned by police, Davis implemented a strategy that thankfully worked. He had Ford and the other actors work with only half of the script, leaving the cops with the other half. Ford, not knowing in advance the questions that would be asked, provided responses that were ad-libbed in character. It was a phenomenal sight to behold, to the point that even he was astonished when seeing the final shot. Naturally, the scene was meant to evoke unexpected responses, and when it was filmed, the reactions were spot on. Davis undoubtedly knew the fundamentals of filming, and to make that happen, he executed what only he could do best. Not many directors have demonstrated this level of intelligence on set, especially when it comes to changing strategies. Davis's work, as spoken in history, is not something to be shrugged off, but is deserving of its due diligence whenever it is mentioned. The Fugitive doesn't just stand as one of the most revered movies of the 1990s, but will also remain so for many years to come. Every time praise is sung for the movie, Davis has his stake in it, as he transformed a script into a worldwide sensation that we all recognize today. The Fugitive remains dear to the hearts of everyone, and even in years to come, its relevance will never fade. Which of these weird facts blew your mind, and to what extent did you feel the impact? Please let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. You are just a few steps away from seeing yet another amazing video. Therefore, before you go, click the video on your screen.